Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you how I found out I was pregnant before my big fat positive. So the earliest pregnancy symptoms. I will say before we jump into this video that everyone's body is different. I know there have been some women who haven't experienced any early pregnancy symptoms and still got their big fat positive. So don't let this video discourage you if you didn't experience any of these symptoms during this 2-week wait period. Everyone's body is different. If you're new to my channel, my name is Erica. While I'm filming this video, I am currently 4 weeks and 3 days. It is still really early, but we are so over the moon and excited to be growing our little family. This is baby number 2. My husband and I, we have a 2-year-old son, Hugo. Now, I took a test on 12 DPO, so that's when I knew that I was pregnant. But I have, and I've said this before, the broken record, but I've always had a really intense connection with my body. I grew up as a dancer and a performer, and so I've always had that close connection with my body and my muscles and everything. The only time I didn't was, funny enough, when I was giving birth to Hugo. That was a big disaster. But especially after I stopped breastfeeding Hugo and when my cycle kicked back in, I knew every month when I was ovulating. I knew every month when my period was coming. Like it was all just working like clockwork, and I feel very lucky for that, and I felt very lucky for that during that time. So I knew when the time came this last cycle, when we decided to try, that I was ovulating, and I took an ovulation test. I got my peak ovulation test on, it was February 29th, which was a Saturday, and we had been trying a few days before then. We tried that day and the day after. Let me share with you some of the symptoms that I experienced. Like I said in the beginning, everyone's symptoms are different, and obviously the symptoms like very early are not from all of a sudden a little embryo in your uterus. A lot of the symptoms are progesterone, estrogen symptoms, but they were definitely symptoms that I hadn't experienced months prior during other cycles. So I kind of knew something was up. One DPO, I felt really crampy, and I think a lot of that was kind of like residual ovulation cramps from that like fertile window time, because my libido was still really high. And I mentioned this in my ovulation, like peak ovulation symptoms video, but around that time I would get, my libido would skyrocket, it would go through the roof. And so I was still like feeling a little bit of that. And then started having like some very slight headaches. 2 DPO, 3 DPO, still felt crampy. It still felt like something was going on in like my uterus ovary region. It just felt different. It felt, I wrote 3 DPO that I had some slight cramps at night. Oh, 2 DPO, I wrote down that my uterus felt stiff. It just felt like things were going on in my uterus that like maybe normally didn't. And I wasn't sure if that was because all of a sudden there were like new things in my uterus that weren't there before. 4 DPO, weird dream. I wrote down weird dream. I was hungry and tired, but I also like not slept well. And I have a toddler too, so it was hard to distinguish between like what are symptoms of early pregnancy and what is just me being tired from having a toddler and like running around all day. But bloating was something that I was consistently feeling almost every single day up until I got my big fat positive, and just like this feeling of like really low down something being present, if that makes sense. And that is something that I do remember from my first pregnancy, and like one of the very first symptoms that I experienced with my son was like this almost like little bloating between my 2 hip bones, and like really low down. All of a sudden this like little, not a pooch, but like a little bit of bloating and stiffness, and I did experience that again this time. And we did end up traveling during this 2-week wait period, which was actually really helpful, and I like highly recommend if you are able to travel during that time, or like just make plans and just fill up your schedule so that you're not thinking about it all the time. I did dream a few times, and I think this is interesting now looking back. I did dream a few times that I took pregnancy tests and that they came out to be positive. I don't know what that means. There's no like scientific test for that. And I don't know if that was just me being super, like having really wishful thinking. I don't know, but I did have that dream, I think at least twice. I know I dreamt it on 7 DPO, and then I'm pretty sure I did it again like 2 nights later. I had the same dream. I have creamy white CM on 9 DPO, and I wrote that down. With my son, I can't remember. In my head, I feel like I didn't have any CM, like all of a sudden it was gone, and that to me was like an early pregnancy symptom, but I don't know how accurate that is. Because with this pregnancy, I have had CM and discharge. And on 11 DPO, so the night before I took my pregnancy test, I had a lot of really dark brown spotting and discharge, which made me kind of nervous because I never experienced that with my son. And I did read up, I did like Google obviously, and from reading and like following other people's pregnancy journeys, I knew that implantation bleeding was a thing, and that as long as you weren't having like heavy blood flows, that it was okay, and that was most likely implantation bleeding. And that's why I just had a ton, like a little bit of that really dark brown discharge. It was a little bit in my underwear that night. And then the next day I had a little bit of it in the morning, like a little bit of like that residual spotting. And then that day, 12 DPO, I took a test and had a positive pregnancy test. And so I feel like looking back now, I had that like intuitive, I had a mix of like very real body symptoms, i.e. the spotting and the bloating and the, what else? The cramping, mixed with some less scientific, like more intuitive symptoms like the dreams and just the feeling. Like I wrote down, what day was it that I just, 8 DPO. I wrote down, I feel pregnant. I just feel pregnant. And it's so hard because the 2-week wait period is such like a stressful time, and you're trying not to be stressed, which makes you more stressed, and you're trying so hard to stay positive. And I didn't know if that was, if me feeling pregnant was just my mind playing tricks on me or like hopeful thinking. But I just felt pregnant. Like I just felt it in my body. And there you go, 12 DPO, took a test and it was positive. So I think all of those symptoms together are what made me pretty, I don't want to say pretty confident that I was pregnant, because you just never know, but it validated the test. When I saw the test, when I saw the positive test, I was like, okay, that's great, because I've been experiencing all these things, and I'm glad that it's just not all in my head. Guys, that is how I knew I was pregnant before my big fat positive. If you experienced any symptoms, if you experienced some of the same symptoms or didn't experience any symptoms at all and you got a positive pregnancy test, definitely leave your experience down in the comments. I know when I was in my 2-week wait, I was watching a bunch of these videos and I was checking the comments down below too, and I always think it's so interesting when women experience like completely different symptoms. Like, again, I've watched videos where women have not experienced any symptoms during the 2-week wait and then still got a big fat positive. So everyone's bodies are so different. Don't forget to subscribe for more mommy and pregnancy content. I'm so excited to share this journey with you. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.